and just so everybody knows, it's being recorded. We'll put it up on our YouTube channel post event. But welcome everybody. I'm Tom Bennett, President and CEO of the Solon Chamber of Commerce. It's an honor and privilege to have Congressman Dave Joyce with us today, as well as our friends at the U.S. Chamber, represented by Ryan Gleason, this afternoon. It's what a great honor and for us to be part of the Spirit of Enterprise presentation that will be coming up. Just a couple of opening remarks from the Solon Chamber office. Just making people aware of some of the programming that we're going through. One of our goals is to make sure that content is what companies need. So we just had our week from tomorrow, but we had a phone call this morning, with the presenters and really talking about policy and technology and how it relates to COVID and HR and a workforce. So it's going to be a fascinating program next Wednesday. More information about that on our website elsewhere, but that is something we're really excited to present once a month. Is really important information for employers because we're all going through this for the first time together, and the need for collaboration and best practice sharing has never been greater. So we're proud to be able to present that and bring people together to help solve workforce issues as they relate to COVID. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Gleason, who will give me the appropriate beep when it is my turn to advance slides. But Ryan is someone we've worked with, over the past year, and he's been a fantastic resource for us, just in getting us stuff. Our members really appreciate everything that the U.S. Chamber does. Without you and the information that we're able to share, I don't think we wouldn't be able to get the information except through partnering with you. So, Ryan, take it away.
Well, thanks, Tom and Kaylin, for getting this together. Congressman, your staff was great in communicating to get this together. It's good to be with the Solon Chamber. I wish I could be with you in person, but circumstances say otherwise. Again, my name is Ryan Gleason. I'm with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce's Great Lakes region, which represents Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Kentucky. And it's my pleasure to be with you to recognize Congressman Dave Joyce as this year's Spirit of Enterprise Award recipient on behalf of his pro-business voting record. As I'm sure you're familiar with, the U.S. Chamber is the world's largest business federation, representing over 3 million businesses from every size, sector, and region, including state and local chambers such as yourselves. And each year since 1965, the Chamber has awarded the Spirit of Enterprise Award to members of Congress with a strong pro-business voting record. In the past, we typically identified issues and to see whether or not members of Congress voted 70% or greater with members of the business community. However, last year, we decided to change it a little bit to include leadership and bipartisanship scores. Leadership scores, for example, is whether or not a member co-sponsored a piece of legislation that the Chamber endorsed on behalf of the business community, or decided to not co-sponsor a piece of legislation that we didn't think was to the business community's appetite, and then ranked and filed those members with their own party to see kind of where they came at in that respect. Last year, during the first session of the 116th Congress, there were a number of issues that were voted on, but we at the Chamber found 18 key issues that we thought were most important to the business community, known as key votes. The issues that we focused on range from taxation to healthcare costs, to drug pricing, to trade deals, retirement, and internet issues. I won't bore you with all of them, but I'd like to touch on two that were really important. Perhaps the most important was the USMCA, that I'm sure you're all familiar with. And while that wasn't voted on last session because it passed earlier this year, it was debated and deliberated largely through last session. Now, this new trade deal, the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, updates NAFTA with our partners to the north and to the south. And not only did Congressman Joyce vote correctly on this issue, he was a vocal advocate in getting this across the finish line, and we could not thank him enough. This is going to create millions of jobs for Americans, and particularly help Ohio's workers, manufacturers, and farmers as he represents in the 14th district. Another piece of legislation that the congressman came out correctly on was the Lower Drug Prices Now Act. We didn't support this, and nor did he. And while it sounds good in nature, it wasn't good in practicality. This piece of legislation was going to create government controls on prescription drugs, reduce the amount of funding for research for the medical field, and endanger up to 1 million American lives, potentially those that are most vulnerable. And so we appreciated the congressman's vote on this as well. So I'm proud to tell you that Congressman Joyce had a 98% voting record in the last session, something to be very proud of. He had a 100% voting, legislative voting record, which obviously he voted correctly on every issue that we identified as important to the business community. He had an 81% leadership score, very solid, a 95% bipartisanship score, of which he was awarded our bipartisanship award. And he's had a 93% lifetime voting on behalf of the business community, one of the strongest members that there are in Congress. So, but Congressman, on behalf of the U.S. Chamber, on behalf of the Salon Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to virtually give you our trophy here of the Spirit of Enterprise. Again, I wish I could be with you in person to actually hand it off to you, hopefully one day soon. But again, I'm glad to have your continued partnership with the business community, with our chambers here. And I know that the people of the 14th District, in particular the business community, are happy to have you in Congress. And with that, Congressman, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you, Ryan and Tom. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to be with you today, and thank you for inviting me to talk. It's an honor to receive the Spirit of Enterprise Award. Common sense policies that support business growth and development, the policies which this award recognizes, are more important now than any other time since I've served in Congress. Recently, many of the pro-growth policies have been geared toward our nation's small businesses. The Paycheck Protection Program, for example, has been a lifeline for thousands of Ohio small businesses. I'm proud to report that the PPP has benefited over 7,000 businesses in Northeastern Ohio, helping to save or preserve roughly 78,000 Buckeye jobs. Since I last spoke with all of you, we've been seeing some promising advances in the development of COVID-19 vaccine and therapeutic candidates. While the exact timing is unclear, it is encouraging to see the administration's Operation Warp Speed has already contracted to purchase 500 million doses from 3 different vaccine candidates, which are currently in phase 3 clinical trials, one of the last steps a vaccine must take before it's approved by the FDA for use. As this group is well aware, advances in our ability to prevent and contain the spread of the virus will be key to restoring the strong consumer confidence that fueled our economy before COVID-19 pandemic hit the U.S. early this year. I know you all must be eager to hear about the additional stimulus legislation which Congress has discussed over the past few months. Unfortunately, these negotiations are broken down. However, I'm hopeful once Congress gets back in session later this month, we can work together to pass legislation that will give our businesses the critical boost that they need. Congress faces an urgent need to act in several important areas right now, including boosting our domestic manufacturing so that we can produce critical goods like PPE here at home, ensuring the Paycheck Protection Program or PPP loans are tax-free, and protecting business owners who have acted responsibly from a wave of COVID-19 related lawsuits. Thank you all again for honoring me with this award today. I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you and on these or any other important issues impacting your businesses during this challenging period.
I think you might be muted, Tom.
Always muted. Always muted. So thank you, Congressman Joyce, and thank you, Ryan, for the presentation. And congratulations, Congressman Joyce, on winning this award. I know from the Solon Chamber perspective, you've been a great partner to the Solon Chamber. Anything we ever need or any business that ever gives us a call and isn't sure where to turn, you and your office are always give us an immediate response and tell us if it's not you, then who exactly we need to talk to. So that has certainly been appreciated, in my time here with the Solon Chamber and with your entire team and staff. So it's a huge congratulations. It's been an awesome partnership. It was great to see you a couple weeks ago at the One Business visit. I look forward to many more, in the future. I guess I will open the floor if there are any questions. You can either use the raise hand function and I can unmute you. You could send us something in the chat, and then we'll get the congressman back on his day and enjoy Northeast Ohio until he goes back on the 14th, and who knows when he's back in Northeast Ohio after that.
Well, Congressman, I'll take it off, and I really appreciated your comments, specifically as it relates to the next phase with regards to domestic manufacturing, liability protection, and PPP. We at the Chamber find that liability protection is the utmost priority. But one other issue that we really focused on as it relates to PPP, with there still being about $120 billion left in the program, there's obviously been some cracks in it. And some of the issues or areas that were missed were state and local chambers. Can you kind of speak to how 501c6s could be included into the next phase? And why in the skinny bill that the Senate put out, if you could touch on it, why it included factors such as lobbying for state and local governments?
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. I mean, the trouble is the majority in the House has put out the HEROES Act, which, as you know, was sort of a wish list for everything they could imagine, and adds an additional 3.2 trillion, I believe, on top of that, which the 3 trillion that were plus that we've already put out into circulation. And as you correctly pointed out, there's still money that from the initial outlay between PPP, between the Main Street Lending Program, between the Economic Injury Disaster Programs, that has not been expended. And so part of our concern was the fact that we need to have an opportunity to figure out exactly what worked, what didn't work, take that money that's been there and gather it back together and repurpose it towards making sure that people are getting the money that they need during these critical times. I mean, we've been lucky in that roughly 5.2 million loans worth 525 billion have been approved, and it leaves over 145 billion in leftover lending capacity for that program. But 7,000 businesses here in Ohio district have received the PPP loan, and that's saved or preserved roughly 78,000 jobs. So, it had its correct effect. And it's important that we continue to expand upon that. But we're not going to be the cure-all for all state and local problems. The whole idea when we started this at the end of March was to, not knowing how long the pandemic was going to last, was to try to roughly keep people in the spot they were in until we could see the daylight and come out of this. And I'd like to think we're starting to turn the corner in learning how to get back to work in a safe, responsible, and healthy manner for everyone. And we have to go back and figure out, like schools or other areas that are going to need some money, how we're going to target that money to the problem of the pandemic and not just throw money out to every wish list item that there's out there. The first three were done with amazing bipartisan, bicameral support. And it's time we get back to the table and do the same thing now moving forward. So as to the lobbying aspects in the Senate, obviously that's a better question for Senator Portman. But I know for myself as well, I agree that some states and cities need to be helped because of something that a city or municipality relied on tourism that got shut down, then obviously you're going to need a little more help. But I'm not about to help out states that have pension fund crisis of their own making that they want to try to use the relief that we have now to try to fix.
Well, me from Illinois, I can certainly understand that respect of bailing out states with pension issues. But speaking of daylight and also the warp speed as it relates to the vaccine, should we get a vaccine by the end of the year and we start to return to normal next year, obviously the country is going to need some assistance and economic mobility. Where do you see kind of the focus of where Congress will focus its efforts as it relates to either labor training, infrastructure packages? What do you see as kind of the next step here?
Well, first off, it's a great question. I mean, first off, we got to figure out, and they're obviously, if we're being truthful, some jobs don't make it, and some restaurants are going to close. Some folks are going to be unemployed. We need to train those folks for the jobs that exist. And in manufacturing, we had heard prior to the pandemic that they couldn't find enough employees to fill the spots or to put on the third shift. They weren't going to spend money on buying a machine until they had the opportunity to make sure it was going to be, they have enough people behind it to make it work. And so that problem has been in existence for a while. And so as we move in, the next step, we have to start training people for the jobs that exist and moving forward. Hopefully we get around the corner with the vaccine that'll get us to the point where we can get back to normal relations and open up our industry so much more and allow people to get back to work. But if we've learned anything from all of this, is that we cannot count on China they're not an ally, they're not a friend. We can count on them to get us PPE or to get us which was surprising to me, but 95% of our pharmaceuticals, you think about things like for mental health products, those are all being manufactured there. Most of your ibuprofen and acetaminophen are also manufactured in China. We got to bring that stuff back home. That's just crazy. So I think in bringing back those things, we have to provide either through tax credits or financial stimulus, the opportunity to bring those jobs back home and reshore them, if you will, here in America.
Thank you.
Are there other questions that we can get answered for anyone on the call? You may be getting off pretty easy, Congressman Joyce.
Well, you know, I appreciate the fact that I'm here with you guys. You always know where to reach me. If I can ever be of any assistance, don't hesitate to reach out. Obviously I have people in the district as well. Reach out to those folks like Tom Queen. I see his name here on my screen. But certainly throughout the district, anybody who would be help, any way we could be of help to anybody. My staff in DC and here in Ohio are ready, eager, and willing to help. So please, one of the good learning parts of all this has been being home during the pandemic. And as we were putting these programs out there and getting the feedback instantaneously from all the business community, healthcare professionals, law enforcement professionals, and finding out what they needed and how to target relief to fill those needs and to get us back. And I'd like to think we're turning the corner on this pandemic. The sooner the better as far as I'm concerned. But again, thank you for having me. Thank you for this award. It's an honor to receive this award, especially even though I'm not in Solon, I'm at home, and the Spirit of Enterprise Award is normally given out in DC, and it's a pleasure to receive it in the district in which I work so hard for the folks in this district and let them understand that it's with their support and with the U.S. Chamber support I've been able to receive these awards. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman, and thank you, Ryan, for you're helping to put this all together and for your recognition on behalf of the U.S. Chamber for Congressman Joyce. This has been fantastic. It's great to see everybody. Hope to see everybody again soon. If it's via Zoom, that's okay, but eventually it'll be in person. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day, great rest of the week. We'll look forward to an exciting fall of progress. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great Labor Day weekend.
You as well.
Thank you, Tom, Kalen.